Hey guys, happy Monday. I am back. This is the last week that I'm actually going to be doing the videos and the lessons. Mr. Brantley and Mr. Foster are going to be taking over most likely because I have someone for you all to meet. That's little Ruth. So I had a girl. So all of you that guessed girl, you were right. I think we thought it was going to be a boy, but we are very happy with the girl. She is super, super sweet. And here's my other helper, per usual. There's Mate. The gang's all here, all the girls. We are going to get started. I'm going to miss you guys very much. Before we do get started, I'll miss you very, very much. Still, feel free to text me if you need anything, but I'm not going to know what the lessons and things are. So if you have questions about any of that, ask Mr. Brantley or Mr. Foster, and make sure you go on to do the office hours and all that fun stuff that school has been doing for you guys. Okay, so let's get started and take a look at Monday. I don't have the papers. I'm actually at my mom's house right now. So I don't have the papers like I normally do, which is okay. This week is going to be pretty easy. We're just going to be finishing up the chapters. So your quick write for today is imagine a world without any color. How would it change things if there wasn't any color? Think like if you could only see like black and white, or if you could only see certain colors, what that would be like. So go ahead and write that down. Your aim for today is that you're going to analyze the theme of sameness. Okay, so like being the same as it's used in the next three chapters that we see. So moving right along, we have the vocabulary, which you guys have already done before. So I'm going to go through it really, really quick. It's just a refresher with theme, which is the life lesson or deeper meaning in a story that can connect to every person everywhere, no matter when or where they live. So remember, we always talk about how it's universal, how anyone in the world can use it, any story, anybody's life, anything it can apply. So it cannot be specific to the story. Now, the thing that changes that a little bit is those motives that we saw in eighth grade. You know this a little bit more, but seventh grade, you also worked with it. The motives are subjects that reappear, and they could be in different forms in a work of literature. So you're going to see things like emotions, ideas, situations, character types, objects, settings. So the motive that we are focusing on today is going to be that sameness, okay? How people and things are the same. And then you're also going to see how that's going to change. And then that's going to connect to what we're doing later on in the week with character development and how we see Jonas develop and change and how his world is not so much the same as everybody else's. So when you're determining the theme, you need to think what ideas or events keep happening or reappear. And I actually gave you the one today for sameness. We're going to keep seeing that in these chapters. What lesson could the author be trying to communicate to everyone based on these ideas or events? How could I write this lesson in the form of a theme statement? And then what we've always done, the stuff that we used to do, right? We always thought about problem, solution, and then lesson learned, okay? So if you want to think about it that way as well, you can think about it that way with the theme. But the motive that you're going to see is sameness, and I'm going to model it for you first, and that's what I want you to watch. And then I'm just going to kind of quickly read through the rest, and you guys are going to do it on your own. So as always, down here, you see after practice one that you can use the first link to follow the chapters. It's going to give you that PDF. You just have to scroll down and find the chapter. And then the next link, you're going to listen to the story. I am going to read chapter 11, and I'm going to stop in going back to this essential question that we have. So our essential question that I am looking at is, what does chapter 11 suggest about the motive? Okay. The motive sameness. All right. So that's the question I'm going to keep going back to. What is chapter 11 telling us about sameness? So what you're going to see is I'm going to have little questions on the side, and then my thinking, and I'm going to kind of talk through that, but you can also see it on the paper. So here is chapter 11. And I might not read the entire thing because you guys can also listen to it. But here we go. Jonas felt nothing unusual at first. He felt only the light touch of the old man's hands on his back. So remember, the giver puts his hands on his back, and that's how he is taking memories from his own mind and like through his hands, he is giving that memory to Jonas. Because remember, the people in Jonas's community do not have these memories. Only the giver has them, and only the receiver, who is now Jonas. And so he has to transfer the memories to him. He tried to relax, to breathe evenly. The room was absolutely silent, and for a moment, Jonas feared that he might disgrace himself now, on the first day of his training, by falling asleep. Then he shivered. He realized that the touch of the hands felt suddenly cold. At the same instant, breathing in, he felt the air change, and his very breath was cold. He licked his lips, and in doing so, his tongue touched the suddenly chilled air. It was very startling, but he was not at all frightened now. He was filled with energy, and he breathed again, feeling the sharp intake of frigid air. Now, too, he could feel cold air swirling around his entire body. He felt it blow against his hands where they lay at his sides and over his back. The touch of the man's hands seemed to have disappeared. Now he became aware of an entirely new sensation. Pinpricks. No, they were soft and without pain. Tiny cold feather-like feelings peppered his body and face. He put out his tongue again and caught one in the dots of cold upon it. So what is it? If he's like, and there's cold coming at it, right? Snow. We know that it's snow. He doesn't know it is snow because he doesn't have that memory yet. It disappeared from his awareness instantly, but he caught another and another. The sensation made him smile. One part of his consciousness knew that he was still lying there on the bed in the annex room. Yet another separate part of his being was up right now in a sitting position, and beneath him, he could feel that he was not on the soft decorated bed covering at all, but rather seated on the floor hard surface. His hands now held, though at the same time they were still motionless at his sides, a rough, damp rope. And he could see through his eyes, though his eyes were closed. He could see a bright, whirling torrent of crystals in the air around him, and he could see them gather on the backs of his hands like cold fur. His breath was visible. Beyond through the swirl of what he now somehow perceived was the thing that the old man had spoken of, snow. He could look out and down a great distance. He was up high someplace. The ground was thick with a fiery snow, but he sat slightly above it on hard, flat object. Sled, he knew abruptly. He was sitting on a thing called sled, and the sled itself seemed to be poised at the top of a long, extended mound that rose from the very land where he was. Even as he thought the word mound, his new consciousness told him hill. So he's on a hill, on a sled, and he's about to go down in the snow. Then the sled, with Jonas upon it, began to move through the snowfall, and he understood instantly that now he was going downhill. No voice made an explanation. The experience explained itself to him. His face cut the frigid air as he began the descent, moving the substance called snow on the vehicle called sled, which propelled itself on what he now knew without a doubt to be runners. Comprehending all of those things as he sped down toward he was free to enjoy breathless glee that overwhelmed him. The speed, the clear, cold air, the total silence, the feeling of balance and excitement and peace. Then as the angle of incline lessened, as the mound, the hill flattened nearing the bottom, the sled's forward motion slowed. The snow was piled around it, and he pushed his body moving forward, not wanting the exhilarating ride to end. Finally, the obstruction of the piled snow was too much for his thin runners on the sled, and he came to a stop. He sat there for a moment, panting, holding the rope in his cold hands. Tentatively, he opened his eyes, not his snow hill sled eyes, for they had been open throughout this strange ride. He opened his ordinary eyes and saw that he was still on the bed and that he had not moved at all. So he woke up from that. It's almost like these memories are like dreams, right? He gets to like experience these things. The old man, still sat beside the bed, was watching him. "How do you feel?" he asked. Jonas sat up and tried to answer honestly. "Surprised," he said after a moment. The old man wiped his forehead with his sleeve. "Phew," he said. "It was exhausting, but even transmitting that tiny memory to you, I think it lightened me just a little." "Do you mean, you did say I could ask questions?" The man nodded, encouraging his question. "Do you mean now you don't have the memory of it, of that ride on the sled anymore?" "That's right, a little weight off this old body." So it takes a lot out of the giver to give these memories to Jonas. But at the same time that it's like hard to give him these memories and it's tiring, it also is like a weight is lifted off his shoulder, right? It's one less thing he has to like hold in his brain. And so it's kind of like a nice release. But it was such fun, and now you don't have it anymore. I took it from you. But the old man laughed. All I gave you was one ride, on one sled, in one snow, on one hill. I have a whole world of them in my memory. I could give them to you one by one 1,000 times, and there still would be more. Are you saying that I mean, we could do it again? Jonas asked. I'd really like to. I think I could steer by pulling the rope. I didn't try this time because it was so new. The old man laughed and shook his head. Maybe another day for a treat. But there's no time, really, just to play. I only wanted to begin by showing you how it works. Now, he said, turning businesslike, lie back down. I want to. Jonas did. He was eager for whatever experience would come next. But he had suddenly so many questions. Why don't we have snow and sleds and hills? He asked. And when did we in the past? Did my parents have sleds? When they were young? Did you? The old man shrugged and gave a short laugh. No, he told Jonas. It's a very distant memory. That's why it was so exhausting. So the older the memory, the more exhausting it is for the giver to give it to Jonas. I had to tug it forward for many generations back. It was given to me when I was a new receiver, and the previous receiver had to pull it through a long period too. But what happened to those things? Snow and the rest of it. Climate control. Snow made growing food difficult, limited the agricultural periods, and unpredictable. Weather made transportation almost impossible at times. It wasn't a practical thing, so it became obsolete when we went to sameness. There's that word, sameness. So let's keep going and then we'll ask the question. In hills too, he added, they made convenience of good unwieldy trucks, buses, slowed them down. So he waved his hand, as if a gesture had caused them to disappear, the hills to disappear. Sameness, he concluded. Jonas frowned. I wish we had those things still, just now and then. The man smiled. So do I, he said, but that choice is not ours. But sir, Jonas suggested, since you have so much power, I'm going to stop there. So if you're looking at my think about it question, it says, why doesn't snow, weather, hills, and other things like that exist anymore? So I know based off of what we just read on page 83 and 84, it's saying that weather made it difficult for people to plant things and for like people to go on like hills and things like that. So they got rid of it. They controlled the climate. And so these little things that their community started controlling turned to sameness. So everything was the same so that like someone in one part of town didn't have to suffer because of snow. If you think about like people that live in Alaska, right? They go through very many different things than what we would go through if you lived in Florida, right? The snow and the weather and things like that cause problems for people. But if it's all the same, then there's not going to be those problems. Everybody will have the same opportunity. So what I have over in my thinking is on page 83, it states that weather made it difficult to plant or farm and made things unpredictable. So they took it away and they make it the same all year round, and it was more stable and predictable for the community. Remember, they live in a world where everything is like perfect and equal. So they have to make everything the same. Okay. I am going to keep reading chapter 11, and then we're going to quickly go through your questions, and then the video will be. Okay, so here we go. The man corrected him. Honor, he said firmly. I have great honor. So will you, but you will find that that is not the same as power. Lie quietly now, since we've entered into the topic of climate. Let's give you something else, and this time I'm not going to tell you the name of it, because I want to test the receiving. You should be able to perceive the name without being told. I gave away snow and sled and downhill wind runners by telling them to you in advance. Without being instructed, Jonas closed his eyes again. He felt his hands on his back again. He waited. Now it came more quickly. The feelings, the time, the hands didn't become cold, but instead began to feel warm on his body. They moistened a little. The warmth spread, extending across his shoulders, up his neck, onto the side of his face. He could feel it through his closed parts too. A pleasant, all-over sensation, and when he licked his lips this time, the air was hot and heavy. So he's not like, he kind of like is expecting snow, but it wasn't there. He didn't move. There was no sled. His posture didn't change. Sorry. He was simply alone someplace out of doors. Lying down, and the warmth came from far above. It was not as exciting as the ride through the snowy air, but it was pleasurable and comforting. Suddenly, he perceived the word for it: sunshine. He perceived that it came from the sky. Then it ended. Sunshine, he said aloud, opening his eyes. Good, you did get the word. That makes my job easier, not so much explaining. And it came from the sky. That's right, the old man said. Just the way it used to. Before sameness, before climate control, Jonas added. The man laughed. You receive well and learn quickly. I'm very pleased with you. That's enough for today. I think we're off to a good start. So guys, even sunlight, they don't know what sunlight is. Like, that's pretty crazy, right? All these different weather and climate and all this stuff, it's just always the same. They don't get to experience what like we have in our world. It's very, very different. It's all controlled. Okay. Think about like when you read the Hunger Games, right? When she was in that, when Katniss was in that, or when you watch the movie, Katniss was in that arena and they controlled all of the weather. Okay. So not that Jonas is living in an arena, but there's definitely something that controls, they're not like in a magical world. Okay. There's something that they're living in that controls the climate and everything to make it the same. The chief elder told everyone, and you told me too, that it would be painful. So I was a little scared, but it didn't hurt at all. I really enjoyed it. He looked quizzically at the old man. The man sighed. I started you with memories of pleasure. My previous failure gave me the wisdom to do that. He took a few deep breaths. Jonas, he said, it will be painful, but it need not be painful yet. I'm brave. I really am. Jonas sat up a little straighter. The old man looked at him for a moment and he smiled. I can see that, he said. Well, since you asked the question, I think I have enough energy for one more transmission. Okay, so I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop there for now. And I want us to look at the next question that with the model. What was it like before sameness was put in place? So my thinking is there was weather such as sunlight and snow for people to experience, but now it's all the same. So no one can experience, like I said, no one can experience those things, and Jonas can only experience them through the giver's memories. And so now he's getting those memories of it. And Jonas is like, I don't understand why they took it away. Like, it's just sameness. And you're actually going to figure out why in the next chapter, why they took it away and things like that. It makes a little bit more sense. We did state that, it's a plant and farm and things like that. That's one of the reasons they took it away. There's also a different reason why they took it away. And they're starting to already mention it with the pain. Okay. So I'm going to skip down a little bit on page 86, and it says he goes back into a memory, and his skin began to sting. Restlessly, he moved one arm, bending it, and it felt a sharp pain in the crease of his inner arm, his elbow. Ouch, he said loudly, and shifted on the bed. Ow, he said, wincing at the shift, and even moving his mouth to speak made his face hurt. He knew there was a word, but the pain kept him from grasping it. Then it ended. He opened his eyes, wincing with discomfort. It hurt, he told the man, and I couldn't get the word for it. It was sunburn, the old man told him. It hurt a lot, Jonas said, but I'm glad you gave it to me. It was interesting, and now I understand better what it meant that there would be pain. So what could be one of the reasons why they took away sunlight? It caused pain, right? If people don't wear sunblock and things like that, it will burn them. So they try to take away pain so that people don't have to experience it. The man didn't respond. He sat silently for a second. Finally, he said, get up now. It's time for you to go home. They both walked to the center of the room. Jonas put his tunic back on. Goodbye, sir, he said. Thank you for my first day. The old man nodded to him. He looked drained and a little sad. Sir, Jonas said shyly. Yes, do you have another question? It's just that I don't know your name. I thought you were the receiver, but you say now that I'm the receiver. So I don't know what to call you. The man sat back down in the comfortable upholstered chair. He moved his shoulders around as if to ease some aching sensation. He seemed terribly weary. Call me the giver, he told Jonas. So Your little question down below that I have, your stop and jot, you were going to answer why Jonas would call the man the giver. Why do they say the giver and the receiver? Okay, think about it with the memories. Now I want to answer this question about our essential question, which is what does chapter 11 suggest about the mode of sameness? So, chapter 11, I'm sorry guys, I just keep yawning. I don't know what it is. Chapter 11 suggests that people who make decisions made sure everything was the same and controlled to make life more predictable and easier for people living in the community. That way, people would not have to experience hardships like crops not growing or pain such as sunburn because of uncontrolled weather. So that is just the opening of the sameness that we see and why they're doing it. You are going to go down for chapter 12 and you are going to listen or read chapter 12 on your own from the links that I gave you, and you are answering the same thing, okay? So you have think about it questions, and then you have think about it questions, and then you have your thinking. What does it take away? So why does taking away color, what does taking away color have to do with sameness? So if you look at the think about it questions, it says Jonas begins explaining to the giver what he's been seeing. The giver tells him it's color. Why do you think they decided to take color away? Then the next is the giver states on page 95 that their people made the choice to give up weather and colors and other things. How does Jonas feel about those choices? And you're going to write that over in the our thinking part. And you're always, guys, as you're answering these questions, you need to keep thinking about what does it have to do with being the same, with sameness? And then your essential question answer, what does chapter 12 suggest about sameness? So chapter 12 suggests that what? And that's what you're filling in. Then you have a stop and jot. What do you think why do you think that only the giver and the receiver have these memories? And why can't everyone have the memories that they have? What's the reason for that? Now with independent practice, you're going to say, what does chapter 13 suggest about the mode of sameness evolving, which means changing, into the motive, the right to make choices? So we have sameness, and then it's starting to change into the right to make choices. And you're going to see how this develops throughout this week as we're finishing. So you're going to look at those as well. And then down below, guys, there's a really fun, what I have down below is there's a link that will take you to take a colorblind test. So you'll be able to see, like, if you can see every single color, but you also will be able to see the colors that the people in Jonas's world kind of see. You'll see with these, what you're going to do when you take this colorblind quiz is that they're going to show you all these bubbles with color and numbers, and you have to say what number you see. Some of them are gray, and then they have this really light, it almost looks like my nail color, like pink, and it's hard to see what color they are or what number it is. And that is more of the colors that everybody in Jonas's community sees. It's almost like black and white that they see. They do not see colors. Jonas can see colors. The giver can see colors. Certain people can see things. That's like very, very few people, like less than 5 people can see those. So you should go down below and take that quiz so that you can see if you have any color blindness or if you can see millions of colors. I can see all colors. So there are millions and millions of colors. I took the quiz and I could see all of them. So I want to know if you can see all of them too. And then your exit ticket, you're going to click that link down below, and it says, explain how you think life must be like for people who can't see colors. Okay, guys, I'm glad that you got to meet Ruth and see Maple, and I miss you very, very much. I hope you're still all staying very healthy. Stay in the house so we can get back to school soon, okay? Bye.